The F1 race in Baku concluded successfully last weekend, handing over one more victory to the McLaren team. Both McLaren and Ferrari were equally competitive throughout the weekend, and the Red Bull team appeared to be continuing with their issues during this weekend too. Despite being knocked out at the end of Q1, Lando Norris showed the power of the McLaren Challenger and his driving skill by demonstrating a great victory drive from P15 to P4. After a close battle since qualifying, Piastri was able to beat Leclerc by a closer margin. The race weekend was full of heavy crashes and collisions since FP1, making it a more thrilling race weekend. Welcome back to Total F1. This is our race report of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. But before we proceed, hit the subscribe button and smash the bell icon for more exciting updates. In FP1, Charles Leclerc crashed into a barrier, red flagging the session for a brief moment. The crash was sufficient enough to stop his action in FP1. His teammate, Carlos Sainz, also went off the road, but he was lucky to keep his challenger away from the barriers thanks to the lengthy runoff section in turn 6. Franco Colapinto is the other driver who experienced a huge crash in this session, damaging his front left at turn 4. His teammate, Alexander Albon, also went wider at the same corner, but was lucky to avoid any damage by taking the escape road. Esteban Ocon experienced some kind of power unit failure 20 minutes after starting the action in Baku. Verstappen was the fastest driver of the session, with a lap time of 1 minute 45.546 seconds. In place of the suspended Kevin Magnussen, Oliver Bearman was fielded by the Haas F1 team for this race. Charles Leclerc barely avoided barriers by taking the escape road at the same corner that he had crashed at in FP1. Then the Ferrari driver made a request to pit his car as he was not happy with his racing setup. After solving the issues in his Challenger, he returned back to action and recorded the fastest lap time of the session. Both the Red Bull drivers were unhappy about the understeering of their RB20 car. Max just avoided a heavy crash at turn 5, as well as at turn 3. Further, the Dutchman had an issue with visibility with the sunny conditions that prevailed in FP2. Carlos Sainz had to take the escape road at turn 3 as he failed to slow down his car to pass that 90-degree corner. Colapinto once again tapped the barrier at the turn 8 to 9 section, but this time he was lucky to continue with some minor damages. When plenty of runoff area was available, Oliver Bearman crashed into the barriers at turn 1, damaging his front left tyre. Esteban Ocon, who experienced a power unit issue in FP1, struggled once again in the third practice as well. This time he was stuck on the middle of the track with no power, and marshals pulled his car out of the track. In this session, several drivers experienced near collision moments due to heavy traffic. George Russell was the fastest driver of the last free practice, with a lap time of 1 minute 42.514 seconds. Most notably, both the Williams drivers were able to remain within the top 10 of the FP3 timesheets, hinting some kind of improvement in their racing setup. It was a tough qualifying session for the top 2 drivers in the championship standings, as both Verstappen and Norris experienced some unfortunate situations while setting their lap times in Q1. The Red Bull driver brushed the barrier and got trapped inside the bottom 5 at one moment. However, he was lucky to escape out of the elimination zone with a fast lap time in his final attempt. Both the McLaren drivers were once again in the bottom area of the timesheets before their final attempts, and later, Piastri was able to push himself into the top region. However, Lando Norris failed to set a competitive lap time in his final attempt, as well as after running over the curbs. That means Lando Norris was eliminated alongside Ricciardo, Bottas, Zhou, and Ocon at the end of Q1. In Q2, the most surprising performance was from Franco Colapinto, as he was able to reserve a spot in Q3, recording the 5th fastest lap time. Kevin Magnussen's replacement for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, Oliver Bearman, also tried his best to seal a spot in Q3, but his best attempt was good enough for the 11th spot in the Q2 standings, eliminated alongside Tsunoda, Gasly, Hülkenberg and Stroll. Q3 was extremely competitive as several drivers were fighting for the pole position of the race. In his second run of Q3, Verstappen experienced a huge slide, destroying his fast lap. Meanwhile, Alexander Albon left his garage with an attached dry box, and it was an unacceptable mistake from the Williams pit crew. He parked his Williams Challenger on the side of the track and got the help of marshals to remove them. In the end, it was a clear battle between Ferrari drivers and Piastri for the pole position, as the Red Bull driver Max Verstappen was out of contention with the underperformance of his engine. Leclerc and Piastri locked the front row of the starting grid, and the second row was shared by Sainz and Perez. Charles Leclerc was able to convert his pole position advantage to a race lead with a fast start. Meanwhile, both Red Bull drivers were able to gain places at the start, showing some quick reaction times. A contact happened between Stroll and Tsunoda in the first lap, and the Aston Martin driver was later found to be running with a puncture after this incident. Lando Norris, who started the race as 16th, was demonstrating a great recovery drive, and he was able to improve his position up to 11th at the end of the first 3 laps of the race. Then 5 laps later, he made a successful overtake against Oliver Behrman to the 10th spot. When coming to the 15th lap, Norris was running 5th ahead of Sergio Perez after deciding to stay on his old tyres without entering the pit lane. In the subsequent lap, McLaren engineers employed Lando Norris to slow down Sergio Perez till Oscar Piastri made his pit stop. However, Lando's defense was not good enough to slow down the Red Bull driver, and he made a successful overtake, posing a clear threat to Piastri's track position. However, Piastri was able to save his spot by a slim margin. When coming to the 20th lap, Oscar Piastri was running second, and he was in a good position to launch an attack on the race leader Charles Leclerc. With the support of DRS, he completed his move successfully, taking an extra risk with an inside move. Leclerc fought hard to retake his position, but Piastri appeared to be faster with his new tyre set. On the 24th lap, Verstappen was in a better position to attack Lando Norris, and he tried his best to break the defense of the McLaren driver. At one moment, they avoided a close collision. Then in the subsequent lap, Verstappen had to choose the escape path at the 15th corner, just avoiding the barrier after failing to reduce the speed of his car. Charles Leclerc decided to attack Piastri on the 28th lap with the aim of reclaiming his position, but Piastri defended all these attacks from the Ferrari driver very successfully. But it was not the end of the battle, as they engaged again on the 33rd lap. Again, it was not a successful move. George Russell made a very successful DRS-assisted move against Verstappen on the 34th lap, who was running in 6th. When there were 3 laps to end the race, Verstappen was subjected to the attack of Lando Norris, who was running on a relatively fresher rubber. That means Verstappen dropped down to 7th in the pack. Then, on the 50th lap, Sergio Perez tried to overtake Leclerc into the second spot, but it was not successful, and he failed to hold the position with a strong defense. The final result was that Perez lost his third spot as well to Carlos Sainz, and when Perez tried to reclaim his track position, Sainz tried to defend against him by suddenly changing his driving line. However, this defense ended in a tragedy as Sainz and Perez came into a collision with each other at high speed. This was the end of the race for both drivers, destroying a good point scoring opportunity. Then a virtual safety car was introduced and Piastri crossed the finish line as the winner. The pole sitter Leclerc finished the race as second after failing to reclaim his race lead from Piastri. But anyhow, this last moment collision promoted Russell into a podium spot. Norris and Verstappen occupied the 4th and 5th spots in the final standings. The rest of the point offering spots of the race were occupied by Alonso, Albon, Colapinto, Hamilton and Behrman. Most notably, both the rookies were able to score points in this race. With the results of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, McLaren got a chance to move up to the top spot of the constructors' standings with a lead of 20 points over the Red Bull F1 team. However, Max Verstappen still holds the top of the Drivers' Championship with 59 points over Norris. How do you rate the 2024 Azerbaijan Grand Prix? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel to get more exciting Formula 1 news. And we'll see you in the next video, guys. Goodbye.